Picture this: the first light of dawn creeping over the horizon, casting long shadows across a landscape that has whispered secrets for thousands of years. Towering stones, weathered by time, stand in silent circles as if guarding mysteries older than written history itself. This is Stonehenge, one of the most enigmatic monuments ever built, and despite centuries of study, it refuses to give up all its secrets. What was it really for? Who built it? And perhaps most tantalizing of all, how did they do it with nothing but primitive tools and sheer human will? Theories about Stonehenge range from the scientifically plausible to the wildly fantastical, and that's exactly what makes it so fascinating. Some believe it was an ancient astronomical calendar, aligned with the sun and stars with impossible precision. Others argue it was a sacred healing site, drawing pilgrims from across the land. Then there are those who dare to suggest something even more extraordinary, that Stonehenge might not be entirely of this world. Could it be a beacon for extraterrestrial visitors, or even a landing site from a forgotten era? The truth is, we still don't know for certain, and that's the magic of this place. It defies easy answers, inviting us to question everything we think we understand about the past. Today, we're diving deep into 25 of the most mind-bending theories ever proposed about Stonehenge, ideas that challenge history, push the boundaries of imagination, and might just make you see this ancient wonder in a whole new light. From lost civilizations with advanced knowledge to celestial connections that stretch beyond our planet, each theory is a piece of a puzzle we're still trying to solve. So settle in, open your mind, and let's unravel the secrets of Stonehenge together, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you think about our ancient world forever. Could Stonehenge have been built not by human hands alone, but with otherworldly influence? One of the most controversial theories suggests this ancient monument was actually an alien landing site, a beacon, or even a runway for extraterrestrial visitors. The idea was popularized by Erich von Däniken in his 1968 book Chariots of the Gods, where he argued that many ancient wonders, including Stonehenge, displayed engineering feats too advanced for their time. Skeptics dismiss it as fringe speculation, but believers point to eerie details that defy easy explanation. Take the precision of the stones. Each massive slab, some weighing over 25 tons, was transported from quarries miles away and placed with astonishing accuracy. The alignment with solstices and celestial events is so exact that it would have required knowledge of astronomy far beyond what we typically attribute to Neolithic societies. How do they calculate these angles without advanced tools? And why go to such extraordinary lengths unless the site held profound, perhaps even cosmic significance? Some researchers propose Stonehenge's circular design and towering heights made it a perfect landmark, visible from the sky like a primitive runway or navigation point. Others speculate it could have been a communication device, using sound or light to signal beings beyond our world. Even today, the site has peculiar acoustic properties. Certain stones amplify sound in ways that seem almost intentional. Of course, mainstream archaeology attributes these marvels to human ingenuity, patience, and an evolving understanding of the stars. But the ancient alien theory lingers because it taps into something deeper, a haunting question about whether we've ever truly been alone on this planet. Whether you believe it or not, the idea forces us to reconsider just how much our ancestors knew and who or what might have helped them. Long before archaeologists began piecing together Stonehenge's true age, another theory took root in the popular imagination, one shrouded in mist and mystery. The idea that Druids, the ancient Celtic priests, built Stonehenge as a temple for sacred rites, including human sacrifice. This notion was fueled by 18th century Romanticists who painted vivid pictures of robed figures chanting beneath the stones, their rituals bathed in moonlight. The heel stone, standing ominously apart from the main circle, was even cast as an altar where offerings were made to appease the gods. But here's where the story twists. Modern archaeology tells us Stonehenge was already ancient by the time the Druids emerged in Britain, dating back to around 3000 BCE, over 1,000 years before Celtic culture took shape. The brutal truth: there's no physical evidence of sacrifices at the site. No mass graves, no bloodstained tools, nothing to support the grisly folklore. Yet the legend persists, woven into books and films, because it taps into our fascination with the macabre and the sacred. So why the disconnect? Part of it stems from early antiquarians misinterpreting history, blending fragments of Celtic tradition with the monument's grandeur. The Druids did worship in sacred groves and may have used standing stones, just not these stones. Instead, Stonehenge's real purpose seems tied to life, not death. Animal bones found nearby suggest feasting, not slaughter. The alignment with solstices points to celebrations of renewal, cycles of the sun rather than shadows of violence. Still, the myth endures, a testament to how easily fact and fiction intertwine when it comes to Stonehenge. Whether altar or astronomical clock, the stones provoke questions about what we project onto the past and why we're so drawn to stories that send chills down our spines. What if the massive stones of Stonehenge weren't just meant to be seen but heard? One of the most fascinating modern theories suggests this ancient monument functioned as a colossal sound chamber, where vibrations and echoes played a central role in healing or sacred rituals. Researchers have discovered something extraordinary about the bluestones. The smaller inner circle of rocks transported over 140 miles from Wales. When struck, these stones produce distinctive metallic echoes, almost like gongs, resonating with a clarity that seems impossible for ordinary rock. Acoustic studies reveal the circular layout acts like a natural amplifier, bouncing sound waves inward to create an immersive auditory experience. Imagine standing at the center as chants or drumbeats reverberate through the stones, the vibrations humming through your body. To Neolithic people, this might have felt like magic or medicine. Ancient cultures worldwide believed sound could heal, from Tibetan singing bowls to Aboriginal didgeridoos used in ceremonial cleansings. Could Stonehenge have been an early form of vibrational therapy, where the very act of listening was thought to restore balance or commune with spirits? Archaeological finds add weight to the idea. Excavations near Stonehenge uncovered piles of bluestone chips, suggesting people deliberately chiseled off fragments, perhaps as talismans believed to carry the stone's resonant power. Even more telling, many human remains found in the area show signs of severe illness or injury, hinting that pilgrims traveled there seeking cures. The acoustics might explain why these particular stones were hauled such an incredible distance instead of using local materials. Their unique sonic properties could have been as vital as their physical presence. Skeptics argue the sound effects were purely accidental, a byproduct of the stone's density rather than intentional design. Yet the precision of the circle's layout, a shape proven to enhance acoustic resonance, makes it hard to dismiss as coincidence. Whether used for healing, meditation, or rituals we can scarcely imagine, the sonic theory transforms Stonehenge from a silent monument into a living instrument, its stones humming with secrets we're only beginning to hear. In the mid-1960s, astronomer Gerald Hawkins dropped a bombshell theory that reshaped how we see Stonehenge. What if those towering stones weren't just a sacred site, but a sophisticated astronomical computer? Using early computers to map celestial patterns, Hawkins discovered something startling. The monument's alignments matched key solar and lunar events with eerie precision. The summer solstice sunrise, for example, slices perfectly between the heel stone and the slaughter stone, illuminating the altar at the heart of the circle. But Hawkins went further, proposing that Stonehenge could predict eclipses, a feat requiring advanced knowledge of the moon's 18.6-year cycle. The key, he argued, lay in the Aubrey holes, 56 mysterious pits encircling the monument, named after 17th century antiquarian John Aubrey. Hawkins believed these weren't just ritual pits or post holes, but a prehistoric counting system. By moving markers between the holes in a specific sequence, ancient astronomers could track lunar phases and anticipate eclipses. Imagine it, a giant stone calendar, its secrets hidden in plain sight for millennia. Not everyone was convinced. Critics pointed out that while the alignments exist, proving intentional design is another matter. The Aubrey holes might have held wooden posts or human remains, their astronomical purpose speculative at best. Even the eclipse prediction theory relies on patterns that could be coincidental. After all, with enough stones and alignments, some are bound to match celestial events by chance. Yet the idea endures because it speaks to a deeper truth. Whether or not Stonehenge was a true computer, its builders clearly revered the skies, the way the stones frame the winter solstice sunset, or how the avenue aligns with the rising midsummer sun. These weren't accidents. They reveal a people deeply attuned to cosmic rhythms, embedding their understanding of time and season into the very land. So while Hawkins' theory may stretch the evidence, it reminds us that Stonehenge's genius lies not just in how it was built, but in what it was meant to witness, the eternal dance of earth and sky. Beneath the towering stones of Stonehenge lies a shadowy theory, one that whispers of gateways to another world, not the celestial realms of sun and stars, but something far darker, the underworld. This idea takes root in the landscape itself, where over 300 burial mounds cluster around the monument, some dating back to the same era as its construction. These ancient graves, known as barrows, form a silent necropolis, hinting that Stonehenge wasn't just a place of the living, but a threshold for the dead. The winter solstice sunset holds the key to this chilling concept. While summer solstice celebrations draw crowds to witness the sunrise, the winter alignment tells a different story. As the sun sinks low on the shortest day of the year, its final rays slice through the monument's pillars, casting long shadows toward the entrance of the nearby New King Barrows. To ancient observers, this might have symbolized the sun's descent into the underworld, a fleeting bridge between realms. The timing is no accident. In many Neolithic cultures, the winter solstice marked a time when the veil between worlds grew thin, when spirits could cross and the dead might walk. Comparisons to other megalithic sites deepen the mystery. Across Europe, from Ireland's Newgrange to Malta's Hal Saflieni Hypogeum, prehistoric builders constructed passage tombs aligned with solstices or equinoxes. These weren't just graves, they were designed as portals, their narrow tunnels channeling sunlight to awaken the dead during sacred moments. Even the shape of Stonehenge's bluestones mirrors these passageways, their arrangement creating corridors that might have guided ritual processions or something far more uncanny. Yet what sets Stonehenge apart is its scale. While other sites focus on individual tombs, this sprawling complex suggests a communal gateway where entire generations sought connection with ancestors. The presence of cremated human remains within the Aubrey holes hints at ceremonies honoring the departed, their ashes perhaps meant to aid passage to the next life. Some researchers speculate the famous heel stone served as a spiritual sentinel, marking the boundary between worlds. Of course, not all scholars embrace this interpretation. Critics argue the burial mounds accumulated over centuries, their proximity to Stonehenge more practical than symbolic, a prestigious place to inter elites. The winter solstice alignment, while striking, could simply reflect agricultural cycles rather than death rituals. But the theory persists because it resonates with something primal in us, the longing to believe that stones older than memory might still guard the doorways to places beyond our understanding. Whether calendar, cemetery, or cosmic door, Stonehenge remains a riddle wrapped in moonlight and shadow. Centuries before archaeologists puzzled over Stonehenge's origins, medieval scribes wove a far more fantastical tale, one involving the legendary wizard Merlin, a vanished Irish stone circle, and the raw power of magic. The story first appears in Geoffrey of Monmouth's History of the Kings of Britain, written in the 12th century, where Stonehenge isn't a Neolithic marvel but a war trophy with supernatural roots. According to the tale, the stones originally stood on Mount Killarnow's in Ireland, erected by ancient giants who used them for healing rituals. After a bloody battle, the British King Aurelius Ambrosius desired a monument to honor his fallen warriors. Merlin, his trusted advisor, declared the Irish stones perfect for the task, but transporting them required more than manpower. What follows reads like an ancient superhero saga. Using his own arts and mysterious machinery, Merlin disassembled the massive stones and flew them across the sea to Salisbury Plain, where they were reassembled with perfect precision. The tale brims with details that tantalize modern readers. The stone's healing properties, Merlin's advanced technology, even the suggestion of levitation. It's easy to dismiss as pure fantasy, but buried within the myth are glimmers of something stranger. For starters, Geoffrey's account correctly notes that some stones, the blue stones, were transported from far away, a fact only confirmed by modern geology in the 20th century. How did a medieval writer know this? Some scholars argue he tapped into oral traditions long lost to history, fragments of truth wrapped in layers of embellishment. Others believe he invented the story wholesale to glorify Britain's mythical past. Either way, the Merlin connection stuck, shaping perceptions of Stonehenge for generations. The healing angle is equally intriguing. Medieval visitors often chipped off pieces of the blue stones, believing them to cure ailments, a practice echoing the history's description of the stone's original use. Chemical analysis even reveals trace amounts of copper in the blue stones, which might have given water collected in their hollows a faint blue tint, reinforcing their magical reputation. Yet the most enduring legacy of Geoffrey's tale is how it transformed Stonehenge into a canvas for imagination. By linking it to Merlin, he cemented the site's place in Arthurian lore, ensuring it would be remembered not just as stones, but as a symbol of Britain's mysterious mythic heart. Today, as archaeologists piece together the monument's true history, the Merlin myth reminds us that Stonehenge has always been more than a physical structure. It's a story we keep retelling, each generation finding new magic in its ancient shadows. The legend of the giant's dance stretches back to a time when myth and memory blurred into one. Long before Stonehenge stood on Salisbury Plain, Irish folklore spoke of a colossal stone circle built by giants atop Mount Killarnow's, a place where the earth itself seemed to hum with power. According to the tale, these towering beings didn't just place the stones, they danced among them, their movements weaving magic into the rock. When Merlin supposedly transported these stones to Britain, he wasn't just moving monuments, he was stealing a piece of the giant's power. But could this fantastical story hold a kernel of truth? Archaeologists have uncovered something remarkable. The blue stones at Stonehenge's heart did indeed come from the Preseli Hills in Wales, nearly 140 miles away. For centuries, scholars dismissed the giant's dance as pure fiction until science revealed that Neolithic builders really had dragged these stones across unimaginable distances. The legend might not record how it happened, but it preserves the what with eerie accuracy. Deeper still, the story hints at something beyond mere transport. The idea of giants building these circles could reflect ancestral memories of the Neolithic people themselves, tall, muscular figures who moved mountains of stone with nothing but ropes and sledges. To later generations, their feats might have seemed superhuman, their legacy morphing into tales of mythical beings. Even the name Giant's Dance suggests movement, as if the stones were alive, placed in patterns that echoed celestial rhythms or sacred steps lost to time. The connection to Ireland is equally tantalizing. During the Neolithic period, cultural exchange flourished across the Irish Sea, with shared styles of pottery, tools, and even burial practices. Could the legend encode a half-remembered migration, a time when people, or their ideas, traveled between these lands, bringing their stones and stories with them? The Bluestone's journey mirrors the spread of megalithic culture, where knowledge flowed as freely as trade goods. What makes the Giant's Dance theory so compelling isn't just its mix of fact and folklore. It's the way it transforms Stonehenge from a static monument into a living story, one that crossed seas and centuries. Whether giants or humans raised these stones, the legend reminds us that history isn't just written in textbooks, it's carved into the land, whispered in old tales, and waiting to be unearthed by those willing to listen. What if Stonehenge wasn't built by the people we think of as ancient at all, but by survivors of a civilization so advanced, its name has become synonymous with lost knowledge? Enter the theory that Stonehenge was an Atlantean outpost, a beacon left by refugees from that fabled island after its catastrophic sinking. The idea traces back to Plato, who first described Atlantis in his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, painting a picture of a mighty seafaring empire with technology and wisdom beyond even classical Greece's achievements. According to his account, Atlantis fell in a single day and night of earthquakes and floods, vanishing beneath the waves around 9,000 years before his time. But what if some escaped, carrying their secrets to distant shores? Proponents of this theory point to the sheer improbability of Stonehenge's construction. How could Neolithic farmers with no written language or metal tools orchestrate such precision? The alignment with solstices and lunar cycles suggests astronomical knowledge rivaling that of the Babylonians or Egyptians' cultures that arose millennia later. Even the Bluestone's transport defies logic. Moving 25-ton slabs from Wales to Salisbury Plain would have required not just manpower but sophisticated engineering techniques. To some, this hints at a transfer of technology from a more advanced society, perhaps one fleeing Atlantis's ruin. Intriguingly, similar megalithic sites dot the Atlantic coasts of Europe, from Portugal's Almenda's cromlech to France's Karnak stones. These shared architectural styles, some argue, form a network of Atlantean waypoints, remnants of a maritime culture that once stretched across the ocean. Stonehenge, with its alignment to both solar and lunar events, might have served as a navigational aid or even a data storage system, its stones encoding knowledge in their positions much like a prehistoric hard drive. Skeptics, of course, dismiss this as romantic speculation. Plato's Atlantis was likely allegorical, a cautionary tale about hubris rather than a historical report. There's no geological evidence of a mid-Atlantic landmass sinking in human memory, and mainstream archaeology attributes megalithic Europe's achievements to gradual innovation, not sudden inheritance. Yet the theory persists because it touches on something deeper, the nagging sense that history's timeline might have missing pages. Whether literal or symbolic, the idea of Atlantis challenges us to wonder how much we truly know about the past and how much might still lie buried beneath the waves of time. Imagine stumbling upon a place where the very rocks beneath your feet were said to heal the sick, where the air hummed with whispers of miracles, and people traveled for weeks just to touch a sacred stone. This is the heart of the lures of prehistory theory, which casts Stonehenge not as an astronomical tool or a burial ground, but as a magnet for desperate hope. At the center of this idea are the Bluestones, those smaller, oddly bluish-gray rocks brought all the way from the Preseli Hills in Wales. Why would Neolithic people go to such extraordinary lengths to haul 80 tons of stone over 140 miles of rough terrain? The answer might lie in the bones left behind. Excavations around Stonehenge have uncovered human remains with telltale signs of trauma and disease, broken limbs, severe infections, even evidence of primitive surgeries. Many of these individuals weren't locals. Isotopic analysis of their teeth reveals they came from as far away as Wales and Scotland. This suggests something extraordinary. Stonehenge may have been a destination for pilgrims seeking healing, much like modern-day Lourdes or Fatima. The Bluestones, infused with folklore about their curative powers, could have been the draw. There's a fascinating parallel in medieval Europe, where holy relics were believed to emit divine energy capable of curing ailments. The bluestones, with their unique composition speckled with sparkling deposits of dolomite and volcanic glass, might have inspired similar reverence. When struck, they produce resonant tones, possibly interpreted as the voice of spirits or gods. Recent experiments show that water collected in the hollows of these stones absorbs trace minerals, turning slightly blue, a color often associated with healing in ancient cultures. Could this have been seen as sacred medicine, a liquid blessing from the earth itself? The theory gains even more traction when you consider the landscape. Stonehenge sits at the intersection of ancient pathways, some stretching across Britain like arteries. These routes, known as ley lines to modern enthusiasts, may have been pilgrimage trails guiding the sick toward hope. Nearby Durrington Walls, a massive Neolithic settlement, shows evidence of colossal feasts, perhaps celebrations of healing or offerings to whatever forces dwelled within the stones. Of course, not every scholar accepts this interpretation. Some argue the injured and ill came to Stonehenge not for healing but for burial, a final resting place near a sacred site. Others point out that bluestone fragments have been found at burial mounds far from Stonehenge, suggesting they were talismans rather than focal points of rituals. But the pilgrimage theory endures because it speaks to something universal: the timeless human quest for relief from suffering and the places we imbue with the power to provide it. Whether or not the bluestones truly healed anyone, their presence transformed Stonehenge into something more than a monument. It became a beacon for belief, a testament to the lengths people will go when faced with the fragile line between life and death. Standing in the shadow of Stonehenge's towering monoliths, it's easy to imagine the air alive with something more than wind, perhaps the deep, resonant hum of stones singing. This isn't just poetic fantasy. Recent experiments with reconstructed bluestones reveal something astonishing. When struck with stone hammers, they produce clear, metallic tones, almost like ancient bells. These aren't random clinks, but distinct pitches that could have been used to create melodies or rhythms. It's a discovery that transforms our understanding of Stonehenge from a silent monument into what might have been a vast Neolithic concert hall, where sound itself was sacred. The concept of musical stones isn't unique to Stonehenge. Across the globe, from the ringing rocks of Pennsylvania to the lithophones of Vietnam, ancient cultures sought out stones with sonic properties, using them in rituals or ceremonies. In Africa, rock gongs boulders that resonate when struck have been found near cave paintings, suggesting sound and art were intertwined in spiritual practice. The ancient Maya even carved stalactites in caves to produce specific tones, turning underground chambers into ethereal instruments. Could Stonehenge's architects have shared this universal fascination with the music of the earth? The layout of the stones supports the idea. The circular arrangement acts as a natural amplifier, bouncing sound inward to create an immersive acoustic experience. Researchers from the Royal College of Art found that the space's acoustics are remarkably similar to modern concert halls, with echoes lasting up to 1.2 seconds, perfect for rhythmic chanting or drumming. Even more intriguing, the bluestones' unique composition, rich in metallic deposits, gives them their distinctive ring. This wasn't just a happy accident. Neolithic builders might have chosen these specific stones for their sonic properties, hauling them across mountains and rivers precisely because they sounded different. But why would sound matter so much? In many ancient cultures, music wasn't just entertainment, it was a bridge to the divine. The Aboriginal peoples of Australia used didgeridoos in healing ceremonies, believing the vibrations could restore balance to the body. Tibetan monks still use singing bowls to induce meditative states. If Stonehenge's stones were intentionally tuned, their music might have been thought to summon spirits, predict the future, or even heal the sick. The discovery of carved grooves on some bluestones, possibly from repeated striking, adds physical evidence to the theory. Not everyone is convinced. Skeptics argue that the stone's musical qualities could be coincidental, a byproduct of their geological makeup rather than intentional design. Yet the sheer effort required to transport these stones, each one a monumental undertaking, suggests every detail mattered. Whether used for rituals, storytelling, or communal gatherings, the acoustic theory reimagines Stonehenge not as a static relic, but as a living space where the very air trembled with meaning. Next time you see those weathered stones, try to hear them not as silent sentinels, but as the last remnants of a symphony etched in stone. At first glance, Stonehenge seems light years away from anything resembling modern technology. But what if those ancient stones were more than just ritual markers? One provocative theory suggests they functioned as a prehistoric power plant, harnessing the Earth's energy like some Neolithic Tesla coil. Proponents of this idea point to the monument's placement atop a web of intersecting ley lines, those hypothetical energy channels said to crisscross the globe. According to believers, the bluestone's high quartz content, a mineral known to conduct electricity, could have acted as natural batteries, storing geomagnetic energy from the land itself. The summer solstice alignment, not just a calendar, but a moment when the stones charged up under the sun's peak intensity, the theory gains fuel from curious details. Some visitors report feeling tingling sensations or hearing faint hums near the stones, though skeptics attribute this to imagination or underground water flows. More concrete is the presence of piezoelectric quartz in the bluestones, which generates small electrical charges under pressure. In theory, footsteps or even seismic activity might have caused the stones to emit minute voltages enough perhaps to spark awe in ancient observers. Comparisons to other megalithic sites add intrigue. Carnac in France, with its thousands of standing stones, sits atop fault lines where tectonic activity could generate telluric currents. Could our ancestors have sensed these invisible forces and built monuments to tap into them? Mainstream archaeologists, however, remain unconvinced. Ley lines, they argue, are a modern invention with no basis in prehistoric culture. No ancient texts or artifacts reference them. The quartz in bluestones occurs naturally and isn't arranged in any deliberate circuit-like pattern. And while solstice alignments are undeniable, linking them to energy storage stretches the evidence. Yet the theory persists because it speaks to a deeper question. How much did ancient peoples understand about the natural world that we've forgotten? Whether or not Stonehenge functioned as a power plant, its builders clearly recognized something profound in the interplay of stone, sky, and earth, an intuition that modern science is still learning to decode. What if Stonehenge wasn't just a landmark for humans, but a cosmic road sign for travelers from the stars? This twist on the ancient alien theory proposes the monument served as a navigation beacon, part of a vast, interconnected system guiding interstellar voyages across the galaxy. The idea hinges on Stonehenge's precise alignment not just with celestial events, but with other megalithic wonders around the globe. From Egypt's pyramids to Peru's Machu Picchu, these sites form a speculative network some call the Earth Grid, a web of energy lines and geometric patterns invisible to the naked eye but potentially detectable from space. The theory gains traction when you map Stonehenge's coordinates. Its latitude 51 degrees north mirrors significant numbers in advanced mathematics, including the angle of the Great Pyramid slope. Even more intriguing, drawing straight lines between Stonehenge and other ancient sites reveals uncanny geometric symmetry. For instance, the distance to the Great Pyramid divides nearly perfectly by the golden ratio, a mathematical constant found throughout nature. Could these patterns be deliberate, etched into the planet's surface as a kind of interstellar GPS? Proponents argue the bluestone's unique electromagnetic properties might have amplified signals, acting as transmitters or receivers. Quartz crystals within the stones, known to conduct energy, could have interacted with telluric currents, natural electrical flows in the Earth's crust. Ancient astronaut theorists suggest extraterrestrial visitors used these landmarks much like modern lighthouses, their positions creating a navigational grid readable from orbit. The solstice alignments then weren't just calendars but homing beacons signaling optimal times for approach or departure. Not everyone buys into the Earth grid. Critics note that with thousands of ancient sites worldwide, drawing straight lines between a handful is statistically inevitable, a classic case of cherry-picking data. The golden ratio and other sacred numbers appear everywhere because humans are wired to seek patterns, even where none exist. And while the blue stones do contain quartz, there's no evidence it was arranged or used to channel energy deliberately. Yet the theory lingers because it taps into a universal fascination with connectivity. Whether built by aliens or humans, these monuments share an eerie kinship in their ambition and precision. Stonehenge, perched on Salisbury Plain, might be one node in a network we're only beginning to decipher, a message carved not in words but in stone and sky, waiting for us to learn its language. Long before Halloween became a night of costumes and candy, the ancient Celts celebrated Samhain, a festival marking the boundary between harvest and winter, between the living and the dead. And tucked within this eerie tradition lies a spine-tingling theory. Stonehenge might have been the grand stage for these rituals, its stones acting as a colossal calendar for the Celtic afterlife. Imagine the scene: dusk settling over Salisbury Plain as the last light of October's end fades. The massive stones of Stonehenge stand like silent sentinels against a blood-red horizon. According to Celtic belief, this was the night when the veil between worlds grew thinnest, when spirits could cross freely into our realm. The monument's alignment with key solar events, particularly the midwinter sunset, suggests it wasn't just built for the living. The entrance to Stonehenge's inner circle frames the exact spot where the sun sinks below the horizon on the winter solstice, casting long shadows toward the avenue, the ancient processional path leading to the monument. To the Celts, this could have symbolized the sun's retreat into the underworld, a cosmic nod to the dead's return, but the connection runs deeper than symbolism. Archaeological evidence shows that the later Iron Age Celts repurposed Stonehenge long after its original builders vanished. They left offerings, coins, weapons, even human remains near the stones, suggesting they viewed the site as a gateway to the other side. The timing aligns perfectly with Samhain, which fell midway between the autumn equinox and winter solstice, a date Stonehenge's alignments could have marked with startling precision. The theory gains traction when you examine Celtic cosmology. Their calendar wasn't just about tracking days, it was a sacred rhythm linking agriculture, astronomy, and ancestry. Festivals like Beltane and Imbolc weren't mere holidays. They marked turning points in the year's energy, moments when rituals could harness that shift. Stonehenge, with its solstice alignments, would have been the ultimate tool for timing these ceremonies. The monument's heel stone, for example, lines up with the summer solstice sunrise, while the slaughter stone frames the winter sunset, bookends to a year teeming with spiritual significance. Critics argue that Stonehenge predates Celtic culture by over 1,000 years, making it unlikely the monument was built with their beliefs in mind. Yet cultures often repurpose sacred sites, layering new meanings onto old stones. The Celts might not have raised Stonehenge, but they certainly revered it, weaving it into their own tapestry of myth and memory. Whether as a calendar, a temple, or a threshold to the unseen, Stonehenge's stones whisper a truth that transcends time, that the line between the living and the dead is as thin as the light between dusk and dark. When we think of Vikings, images of longships and frostbitten warriors raiding coastal villages come to mind, not the sunlit plains of Salisbury. Yet buried beneath Stonehenge's Neolithic origins lies a provocative possibility that 1,000 years after its builders vanished, Norse explorers might have reclaimed the stones for their own gods. The theory hinges on a handful of eerie clues, artifacts that don't belong, sagas that read like cryptic treasure maps, and a timeline that's far messier than history books suggest. Take the curious case of the Viking spearhead. In the 1920s, archaeologists excavating near Stonehenge uncovered an iron spear tip unlike anything from the Neolithic or Bronze Age. Its design matched weapons used by Norse raiders between the 8th and 10th centuries, a period when Viking expeditions reached as far south as the Mediterranean. Even more telling, Icelandic sagas reference a place called Steins, described as a great stone circle where the gods of the land still whispered. While no definitive proof links this name to Stonehenge, the parallel is hard to ignore. But why would Vikings, with their own sacred groves and temples, bother with an ancient ruin? The answer might lie in the monument's enduring spiritual gravity. Norse sagas frequently describe their people repurposing holy sites they encountered, from Celtic wells to Roman temples, believing them charged with what they called landvitir, spirits of the earth. To a Viking seer, Stonehenge's imposing stones might have seemed like a throne for these forces, a place where Odin's wisdom and Thor's strength could be summoned alongside older, nameless powers. Supporting this idea are the peculiar carvings found on some of Stonehenge's sarcens, crude depictions of ships and axes that resemble Norse graffiti. While mainstream archaeology attributes these to later medieval visitors, their style bears an uncanny resemblance to Viking-age runestones from Scandinavia. Even more compelling is the presence of Norse-style burial mounds just 15 miles from Stonehenge at a site called Inglesham. These graves, dated to the 9th century, contain artifacts suggesting a deliberate fusion of pagan and local traditions, as if the newcomers were weaving their beliefs into the land's ancient fabric. The most tantalizing evidence, however, comes from an unexpected source: teeth. Isotopic analysis of skeletal remains near Stonehenge reveals that some individuals buried there during the Viking Age had diets rich in seafood, uncommon for inland agricultural communities but typical of Scandinavian coastal dwellers. Could these have been Norse settlers or traders, drawn to the monument's fame like moths to a flame? Skeptics counter that Viking activity in southern England was sporadic, focused on raids rather than ritual. Yet history is rarely so tidy. The Norse weren't just destroyers, they were keen observers of local customs, often blending them with their own. If Stonehenge still held cultural significance for the Anglo-Saxons, who themselves revered ancient stone circles, why wouldn't Vikings, with their own megalithic traditions, see value in it too? What makes this theory so compelling isn't just the possibility of axes flashing in Stonehenge's shadow. It's the reminder that sacred spaces are never truly abandoned, they evolve, accumulating layer upon layer of meaning like sediment. Whether as a Neolithic solar temple, a Viking holy ground, or a modern tourist marvel, Stonehenge has always been a mirror, reflecting the beliefs of those who stand before it. And if Norse voices once echoed between those stones, they're part of a chorus stretching back further than memory can reach. The Romans left their mark across Britain: roads, baths, even entire cities, but did their conquest extend to reshaping Stonehenge itself? One fringe theory suggests that long after its Neolithic builders vanished, the monument became a temple to Apollo, the radiant god of the sun. While most Roman sites in Britain are unmistakable, think straight-lined walls and mosaic floors, Stonehenge's rough stones seem worlds apart. Yet scattered clues hint that the invaders might have reinterpreted this ancient wonder through their own spiritual lens. The strongest evidence comes from an unexpected source: coins. Archaeologists have uncovered dozens of Roman-era coins around Stonehenge, ranging from the 1st to the 4th century CE. Most were low-denomination bronze pieces, the kind carried by common soldiers or pilgrims, but a few stand out. Among them was a silver denarius minted under Emperor Augustus, bearing Apollo's lyre on its reverse, a symbol of divine harmony and solar power. Even more telling, several coins were found deliberately placed in crevices between the stones, as if left as offerings. Similar deposits appear at known Roman shrines across Europe, where worshippers tucked coins into sacred cracks as tokens of devotion. Then there's the matter of the disputed inscriptions. In the 1700s, an antiquarian named William Stukeley claimed to have spotted Latin letters carved into one of the Sarsens, though the markings vanished over time. While some scholars dismissed this as fantasy or natural weathering, others note that Roman soldiers frequently etched dedications to gods onto prominent landmarks. If the carvings were real, could they have been prayers to Apollo or Sol Invictus, the unconquered sun god whose cult swept the empire in later centuries? The theory gains traction when you consider how Romans repurposed sacred sites elsewhere. In Gaul, they built temples atop Celtic holy wells. In Greece, they rededicated Apollo's oracle at Delphi while keeping its core rituals intact. Stonehenge, already aligned with the solstices, would have been a natural fit for sun worship, a place where Roman and native beliefs might have fused. The avenue, that ancient processional path leading to the stones, could have become a route for midsummer parades honoring Apollo, much like the Ludi Circenses games held in Rome. Yet contradictions abound. Unlike typical Roman temples, Stonehenge lacks altars, statues, or the architectural flourishes synonymous with classical worship. The coins might reflect casual visits rather than formal ceremonies, and no surviving Roman texts mention the site. Even the Apollo connection is speculative. The coins could just as easily relate to Mercury, the god of travelers, given Stonehenge's location near major Roman roads. What makes this theory fascinating isn't just the evidence, it's the implication that Stonehenge's meaning was never static. Long before modern tourists flocked to the site, it may have been a stage for cultural exchange, where Neolithic astronomy, Celtic reverence, and Roman ritual collided. Whether as a temple to Apollo or a curiosity to passing legionaries, the stones stood witness to an empire's reach and perhaps for a brief moment echoed with hymns to a foreign sun. Centuries after Stonehenge's builders vanished into history, their silent stones may have taken on an entirely new role, one not of celestial worship but of cold, hard justice. The idea that this ancient monument served as a medieval courthouse sounds like something from a fantasy novel, yet surviving documents reveal an astonishing truth. In the 12th century, charters from the reign of Henry II refer to a place called Stonehenges as a meeting ground for judicial assemblies, where disputes were settled under the shadow of towering megaliths. Imagine the scene: a high-ranking official seated near the slaughter stone, his scribes scratching verdicts onto parchment as local farmers and landowners gathered between the Sarsens. The very presence of these prehistoric giants would have lent weight to proceedings, their age and mystery reinforcing the authority of the law. For medieval minds, ancient monuments weren't just relics, they were physical links to a deeper, almost sacred order. Holding court at Stonehenge wasn't just practical, it was symbolic, a way to tether royal power to the timelessness of the land itself. This wasn't unique to Britain. Across Europe, prehistoric sites frequently became backdrops for medieval justice. The doom rings of Scandinavia, stone circles repurposed as trial sites, echo this tradition. Even King Arthur's legendary Round Table may have roots in the Celtic custom of holding councils within stone circles. At Stonehenge, the heel stone could have marked the judge's seat, its alignment with the solstice sunrise transforming legal pronouncements into acts mirroring cosmic order. But why choose Stonehenge over a church or castle? The answer lies in perception. To a population steeped in folklore, these stones carried innate authority, older than kings, older than Christianity. A verdict handed down here would feel less like human judgment and more like destiny manifest. Some charters even reference payments made at the stones, suggesting fines or settlements were collected on site, sealing agreements in the shadow of the ancients. Skeptics argue the meetings might have been coincidental travelers using the monument as a landmark rather than a deliberate courtroom. Yet the consistent mentions in legal documents imply purpose. The most compelling evidence, a 14th century manuscript describing a land dispute resolved, apud Stanhenges, with witnesses swearing oaths upon the stones themselves. Whether Stonehenge's legal role was practical or performative, it reveals how civilizations repurpose the past to serve the present. Those Neolithic builders could never have imagined their celestial temple echoing with the voices of jurors and plaintiffs, but for a few centuries, justice under the open sky took on a grandeur only these stones could provide. Among the wildest conspiracy theories surrounding Stonehenge is the claim that it's not a prehistoric monument at all, but an elaborate hoax orchestrated by 18th-century Freemasons. The idea sounds like something from a Dan Brown novel, yet it persists in fringe circles, fueled by genuine historical quirks and a dash of Enlightenment-era secrecy. At the heart of this theory lies a kernel of truth. Stonehenge was altered in the 1700s, though not in the way conspiracy theorists suggest. The controversy stems from well-documented restoration efforts. By the early 1700s, decades of neglect had left many stones toppled or buried. Antiquarians like William Stukeley, a Freemason himself, lobbied to preserve the site. Later, in the 1900s, engineers painstakingly re-erected fallen sarcens and reset them in concrete, a fact often misrepresented as rebuilding. Critics point to photographs from the era showing cranes and work crews, igniting whispers that the entire site might be a Masonic fabrication. But why Freemasons? The connection isn't entirely baseless. The 18th century saw a surge of interest in ancient mysteries among Masonic lodges, whose members saw themselves as inheritors of lost wisdom. Stonehenge, with its celestial alignments and geometric precision, fit neatly into their fascination with sacred geometry. Some even argue the monument's restored layout mirrors Masonic symbols like the compass and square. A popular claim cites the Pillar of Enoch, a Masonic allegory about preserving ancient knowledge, suggesting Stonehenge was reworked as a physical metaphor for this ideal. Digging deeper, though, the theory unravels. While Stukeley and others were Freemasons, their restoration aimed to preserve Stonehenge, not reinvent it. Modern laser scans of the stones reveal tool marks and weathering patterns consistent with Neolithic craftsmanship, not 18th-century chisels. Even the concrete used in restoration is visibly distinct from the original stone bases. The conspiracy also ignores a crucial detail. Medieval texts and Renaissance paintings depict Stonehenge centuries before the Freemasons' rise, complete with the same iconic silhouettes. What makes this theory so enduring isn't evidence, it's the allure of hidden histories. The Enlightenment was an age of secrets where societies like the Freemasons cultivated an aura of esoteric knowledge. In that light, Stonehenge became a canvas for projection, a relic that could be reimagined to fit the anxieties and obsessions of a new era. The real mystery isn't whether Freemasons rebuilt it, but why we're so eager to believe they did. What if the architects of Stonehenge weren't ancient priests or alien visitors, but us? A theory straight out of science fiction proposes that these stones weren't built by our distant ancestors, but by our far future descendants, planted in the past as a temporal landmark for time travelers. The idea seems ripped from an episode of Doctor Who, where the monument appears as a crossroads for beings slipping between eras, but some theorists argue reality might be just as strange as fiction. Consider the paradox at the heart of this concept. If future humans could manipulate time, wouldn't they leave behind durable, unmistakable marker structures resistant to erosion, aligned with celestial events and impossible to ignore? Stonehenge fits the bill perfectly. Its solstice alignments could serve as a cosmic clock, helping time travelers recalibrate their coordinates. The Bluestone's journey from Wales might not be a feat of Neolithic engineering, but a deliberate choice, geological breadcrumbs leading back to a point of origin. Even the name whispers of temporal mischief. Stonehenge derives from Old English words meaning hanging stones, but what if henge once meant hinge, a pivot between epochs? Pop culture loves this trope. From the Time Machine to Outlander, standing stones often gatekeep portals to other eras. Doctor Who's episode The Pandorica Opens depicts Stonehenge as a prison for the TARDIS, its circular design echoing the show's time-warping aesthetics. These stories tap into something primal, the notion that certain places hold echoes of all timelines vibrating with potential energy, but could there be any factual basis? Proponents point to oddities like the Amesbury Archer, a Bronze Age skeleton found near Stonehenge with artifacts suggesting origins in the Alps. His copper-tin alloy wrist guards predate known metallurgy techniques in Britain by centuries, almost as if he brought advanced knowledge from somewhere else. Then there's the monument's acoustic properties, which some speculate could stabilize time field fluctuations. Wild, absolutely, yet the theory persists because it flips history on its head, suggesting the past might be a loop rather than a straight line. Mainstream science, of course, dismisses this as playful speculation. Time travel violates known physics, and there's zero physical evidence of futuristic tampering. But the theory's real value lies in its audacity. By imagining Stonehenge as a temporal waypoint, we confront the unsettling possibility that history isn't fixed, that the stones might not just mark where we've been, but where we're going. Whether you buy it or not, the idea transforms Stonehenge from relic to riddle, a puzzle where the missing piece might still be waiting in the future. One of the most bizarre and frequently ridiculed theories about Stonehenge suggests the monument isn't a celestial calendar or sacred temple, but something far more primal, a giant fertility symbol. Specifically, some researchers have proposed that the entire layout mimics human reproductive anatomy, with the towering sarcens representing phallic structures and the bluestone arrangements mirroring female reproductive features. At first glance, it sounds like the plot of a raunchy historical parody, but the idea taps into a deeper truth about Neolithic symbolism, one that mainstream archaeology often skirts around. Fertility motifs weren't just common in ancient art, they were central to survival. Across Neolithic Europe, carvings of exaggerated phalluses and vulvas appear on standing stones, cave walls, and pottery. Ireland's Noath Passage tomb features an unmistakable phallic pillar, while Germany's Goseck Circle aligns with seasonal cycles tied to agricultural, and by extension, human fertility. Even the famous Venus figurines, with their voluptuous curves, emphasize reproductive vitality. In this context, Stonehenge's upright stones and circular enclosures could easily be interpreted through a lens of fertility worship, a celebration of life's generative forces. But here's where the theory stumbles. While isolated phallic stones exist elsewhere, Stonehenge's layout lacks the overt genital symbolism seen at other sites. The bluestone's arrangement doesn't neatly match female anatomy, and the monument's alignments with solstices and eclipses point to celestial rather than biological preoccupations. Critics argue that projecting modern anatomical interpretations onto abstract Neolithic designs risks gross oversimplification, like seeing shapes in clouds. Yet the debate reveals something fascinating about how we view the past. Ancient peoples didn't compartmentalize the sacred and the sexual the way modern cultures often do. For them, fertility rites weren't taboo. They were intertwined with rituals for abundant harvests, healthy livestock, and communal survival. If Stonehenge's builders did incorporate fertility symbolism, it wouldn't have been trivial or vulgar. It would have been an acknowledgement of life's most fundamental cycles. The real question isn't whether the stones resemble body parts, but why we're so quick to dismiss the possibility that something so profound could also be so human. At first glance, the idea that Stonehenge's massive stones were simply dumped by retreating glaciers seems almost comforting, a way to explain the unexplainable without invoking lost civilizations or alien intervention. This theory, often called the Ice Age glacier deposit hypothesis, suggests that during the last glacial maximum, around 20,000 years ago, ice sheets dragged bluestones from the Preseli Hills in Wales and left them scattered across Salisbury Plain. No backbreaking labor, no mysterious engineering, just the slow, grinding work of nature. But geology, like history, rarely serves up easy answers. The problem with the glacier theory. It ignores the trail of breadcrumbs left behind by Neolithic quarry workers. At Carn, Godog and Craig Rose Y Felon in Wales, archaeologists have uncovered unmistakable evidence of human activity. Stone tools, wedges, and even the very spots where bluestones were pried from bedrock. The quarries match the chemical fingerprints of Stonehenge's bluestones down to microscopic mineral inclusions. Even more telling, the extraction techniques bear the hallmarks of deliberate engineering. At Craig Rose Y Felon, researchers found grooves carved into rock faces, perfectly sized for wooden levers, as well as artificial platforms used to lower stones onto sledges. These aren't the random scars of ice sheets, they're the signatures of skilled laborers who knew exactly what they were doing. Then there's the sheer improbability of glacier transport. While ice flows did redistribute rocks across Britain, they rarely moved stones as large as the bluestones intact. More often, glaciers shattered massive boulders into smaller fragments, leaving behind fields of gravel, not neatly shaped pillars like those at Stonehenge. Even if a glacier had carried bluestones to Salisbury Plain, why would they be clustered in one precise location rather than scattered randomly across the landscape? Glaciers don't discriminate, they don't drop their cargo in geometrically perfect circles. Perhaps the most damning evidence against the glacier theory lies in the stones themselves. The bluestones at Stonehenge show clear signs of human craftsmanship: peck marks from stone hammers, carefully shaped tenons, and mortise holes for joinery. These aren't raw glacial erratics, they're meticulously worked artifacts, their forms echoing megalithic styles found across Neolithic Europe. The idea that ice alone could have sculpted them stretches credulity past the breaking point. Yet the glacier hypothesis persists, fueled by our desire to simplify the past. It's easier to picture ice as the great architect than to grapple with the reality of Neolithic ingenuity. How ordinary people, armed with nothing but stone and sinew, achieved the extraordinary. The truth is written in the quarries of Wales, in the chips of bluestone littering ancient work sites, and in the stubborn alignment of Stonehenge's pillars with the heavens. Some mysteries aren't accidents of nature, they're monuments to human determination, standing silent against the erosion of time. Could Stonehenge have been the world's first border wall, a Neolithic Brexit dividing ancient tribal territories? While the idea sounds like a parody of modern political debates, it touches on a genuine archaeological mystery. Scholars have long debated whether megalithic monuments like Stonehenge served as territorial markers, signaling ownership or sacred boundaries to rival groups. The evidence isn't just carved into stone, it's written in the landscape itself. Take the Cursus Monument's massive, elongated earthworks flanking Stonehenge, stretching over 3 kilometers in length. These enigmatic features, dug centuries before the stones were raised, seem deliberately designed to funnel movement, almost like prehistoric checkpoints. Excavations reveal they were processional routes but also potential barriers, their ditches and banks creating a visible divide. To a wandering Neolithic group, these earthworks would have sent a clear message: this land is claimed. Similar boundary markers appear across Britain, from the Dorset Cursus to Scotland's Clyde Cairns, suggesting territorial consciousness was deeply embedded in prehistoric minds. But Stonehenge's border theory gets even more intriguing when you examine the bones. Isotopic analysis of human remains found near the monument shows that some individuals grew up hundreds of miles away, yet were buried with local artifacts. This hints at a complex interplay of migration and territoriality, where outsiders might have been welcomed for trade or ritual but still recognized as other. The bluestones themselves, hauled from distant Wales, could have symbolized a cultural or political alliance, or a hard territorial claim, like planting a flag in contested soil. Of course, modern analogies only go so far. Unlike today's razor wire borders, Neolithic boundaries were likely fluid, tied to seasons, rituals, and shared myths rather than rigid exclusion. Yet the laughter this theory provokes hides a kernel of truth. Humans have always fought over land, and Stonehenge, for all its celestial grandeur, might have been as much about earth as sky. Whether as a sacred meeting ground or a line in the sand, its stones remind us that even in prehistory, territory was never just dirt. It was identity, power, and survival carved in stone. What if Stonehenge wasn't just a monument or a calendar, but something far more advanced, a biological hard drive encoded with extraterrestrial DNA? This wild theory takes the ancient alien concept to a startling new level, proposing those towering stones aren't just aligned with the stars but packed with genetic blueprints, perhaps even the secrets of human-alien hybridization. At first glance, it sounds like science fiction, but when you examine the peculiar properties of Stonehenge's bluestones, the idea becomes eerily plausible. The key lies in the bluestone's composition. These rocks, transported over 140 miles from Wales, contain high concentrations of quartz and other crystalline minerals, substances known for their ability to store data. Modern experiments show that under precise conditions, crystals can encode information in their atomic structures, potentially preserving it for millennia. Some researchers speculate advanced extraterrestrial civilizations might have mastered this technology, using megalithic structures like Stonehenge as repositories of biological or even interstellar knowledge. The circular arrangement could act as a kind of antenna, amplifying or transmitting this encoded data through Earth's natural electromagnetic fields. Even more provocative are the theories linking Stonehenge to human origins. Ancient astronaut proponents point to anomalies in human DNA segments, sometimes called junk DNA, that don't fit evolutionary patterns, as potential evidence of alien tampering. Could Stonehenge's stones hold the key to these genetic puzzles? The monument's alignment with solstices and lunar cycles might not just mark time but trigger periodic access to this stored information, like a prehistoric activation sequence. Some fringe researchers even suggest the bluestone's resonant frequencies could interact with human brainwaves, unlocking hidden memories or latent abilities tied to our hypothetical extraterrestrial ancestors. Skeptics, of course, dismiss this as pseudoscience. There's no physical evidence of encoded data in the stones, and the human genome's so-called anomalies have earthly explanations. Yet the theory persists because it taps into a deeper fascination with the boundaries of ancient knowledge. Whether as a genetic archive or merely a monument to human ingenuity, Stonehenge continues to challenge our understanding of what's possible and who or what might have shaped our past. The real mystery isn't just what the stones are, but what they might still be waiting to tell us. By the time the Tudors seized England's throne, Stonehenge had already stood for millennia, but its meaning was up for grabs. Enter one of history's most audacious rebranding efforts, the claim that those ancient stones weren't just a Neolithic mystery, but the remnants of King Arthur's legendary Round Table. This wasn't archaeology, it was political theatre orchestrated to cement Tudor legitimacy by tying their reign to Britain's most iconic myth. At the heart of the scheme was John Leland, a 16th-century antiquarian commissioned by Henry VIII to scour the countryside for proof of Arthur's existence. What he'd discovered at Stonehenge would reshape the monument's identity for centuries. Leland's logic was equal parts clever and contrived. The circular layout of Stonehenge, he argued, mirrored descriptions of Camelot's Round Table, a symbol of unity among Arthur's knights. Never mind that medieval texts placed Camelot in Wales or Cornwall. Leland insisted Salisbury Plain was the true setting, strategically linking Arthur's mythic reign to Tudor-held lands. The heel stone became the Siege Perilous, the seat reserved for the purest knight, while the fallen Slaughter Stone was reimagined as the spot where Arthur's treacherous nephew Mordred met his end. It was a masterclass in creative storytelling, blending half-remembered folklore with nationalist agenda. the Tudors had good reason to co-opt Arthur. Their dynasty, fresh from the Wars of the Roses, needed a unifying legend to paper over England's divisions. Arthur, a warrior king who supposedly united Britons against invaders, was the perfect prototype for Henry VIII's imperial ambitions. Stonehenge, already a sight of awe, became a prop in this pageant. Tudor court poets spun verses comparing Henry to Arthur, while maps began labeling the monument as the Round Table. Even the famous Winchester Round Table, a medieval replica painted with Arthur's likeness, was updated with Tudor rose insignia during Henry's reign. The message was clear: just as Arthur once ruled, so too did the Tudors inherit his mantle. Modern archaeology, of course, dismantles this fantasy. Radiocarbon dating confirms Stonehenge predates Arthur's supposed 5th century reign by over 2,000 years. Yet the myth's grip on popular imagination reveals something deeper: how easily ancient sites become canvases for contemporary ideologies. From Nazi obsessions with runestones to modern conspiracy theories, monuments like Stonehenge absorb the anxieties and aspirations of every era. The Tudors didn't just reinterpret the past, they proved history is never fixed, only endlessly rewritten to serve those who tell it. And in that, perhaps, lies Stonehenge's greatest lesson. The stones may endure, but their stories belong to whoever dares to claim them. Some of Stonehenge's most persistent myths don't involve aliens or ancient priests, but something even more extraordinary: the idea that its builders defied gravity itself. Legends from Tibet to Polynesia speak of monks and shamans using sound or focused intention to levitate massive stones, and a fringe group of researchers insist similar techniques could explain how Stonehenge's 25-ton sarsens were moved. The theory hinges on a curious mix of folklore, questionable experiments, and a stubborn refusal to accept that Neolithic people might have just been really good at engineering. Take the case of Swedish engineer Henry Kjellson, who in the 1950s claimed to have witnessed Tibetan monks transporting boulders up mountains using only horns and drums. According to his account, the monks arranged instruments in a precise semicircle, chanting at a specific frequency until the stones rose and floated into place. Similar stories echo across cultures. Incan legends describe builders who softened rocks with herbal concoctions, while Polynesian oral histories tell of priests chanting stones into position. Even Egypt's Abu Rawash pyramid has local tales of blocks moving, as if carried by invisible hands. These accounts share a tantalizing thread: the suggestion that ancient cultures mastered vibrational or acoustic technologies lost to time. Modern attempts to replicate these methods have been less convincing. In the 1970s, a team led by physicist Olaf Alexanderson staged an experiment using amplified sound waves to lift small stones, with mixed results. While they achieved slight vibration-induced movement, the stones never truly levitated. More recently, researchers at the University of Tokyo used ultrasonic levitation to suspend lightweight objects in midair. But scaling this to Stonehenge-sized monoliths would require energy levels beyond anything achievable with Neolithic tools. Critics highlight a glaring flaw. If sound levitation were possible, why hasn't a single prehistoric tool or text describing the technique ever been found? The bluestone quarries in Wales show clear evidence of wedges, ropes, and sledges, tools of brute force, not acoustic finesse. Even the famous Stonehenge layer of compressed chalk beneath the monument suggests the stones were dragged, not floated, into position. Yet the theory lingers because it speaks to a deeper discomfort. We struggle to reconcile the monument's grandeur with the apparent simplicity of its builders. Maybe that's why these stories resonate. They transform Stonehenge from a testament to human perseverance into a relic of forgotten superscience. A reminder that history might still hold secrets we can't yet explain. Whether myth or lost truth, the levitation legends force us to wonder: did our ancestors know more than we've dared to imagine? What if the greatest secret of Stonehenge isn't buried in ancient history, but hidden beneath our feet right now? Among the more modern conspiracy theories swirling around the monument is the claim that it's not just a prehistoric relic but an active government cover-up site, its true purpose concealed by layers of bureaucracy and staged archaeology. Proponents of this idea point to mysterious ground-penetrating radar scans that revealed subterranean anomalies beneath the stones, unexplained voids and geometric shapes that don't match known archaeological features. Could these hidden chambers hold suppressed artifacts, classified research, or even evidence of advanced ancient technology deemed too destabilizing for public knowledge? The comparison to Area 51 isn't accidental. Just as Nevada's infamous base has long been accused of hoarding extraterrestrial secrets, Stonehenge's heavily managed access and restricted excavation permits fuel suspicions. Critics highlight how quickly certain radar findings were dismissed by official institutions as natural fissures or modern utility lines, despite their precise alignment with the monument's layout. The most infamous example, a 2008 survey that detected a massive, rectangular void near the heel stone, sparking rumors of an underground archive or even a Cold War-era bunker repurposed within the ancient site. When researchers requested permission to excavate, they were denied, a move that only deepened the intrigue. Skeptics argue these anomalies are just glacial sinkholes or remnants of Victorian-era excavations, but conspiracy theorists counter with a provocative question: why the secrecy? Unlike Egypt's pyramids, which are routinely scanned and studied, Stonehenge remains oddly off-limits for invasive exploration. Even the recent discovery of the nearby Superhenge at Durrington Walls was initially withheld from the public for years, raising eyebrows about what else might be kept under wraps. Theories range from the plausible like suppressed evidence of Neolithic astronomical knowledge that rewrites history, to the fantastical, such as rumored energy-generating devices buried beneath the bluestones. Then there's the curious case of the Stonehenge blackout. During World War II, the British military requisitioned Salisbury Plain for training exercises, stationing troops mere meters from the monument. Declassified documents show aerial photos of the area were censored, with Stonehenge itself deliberately blurred officially to obscure landmarks from enemy pilots. But some researchers suggest it was a convenient excuse to hide ongoing excavations or installations. After all, if you wanted to bury something and ensure no one looked too closely, what better cover than a national security directive? Whether you buy into the cover-up narrative or not, it underscores a timeless truth. Stonehenge refuses to be pinned down. Every layer peeled back seems to reveal another question, and in that tension between discovery and secrecy, imagination thrives. The real mystery might not be what lies beneath the stones, but why we're so desperate to believe there's something there waiting in the dark just out of reach. From levitating stones to alien landing pads, from prehistoric healing rituals to secret government bunkers, Stonehenge has sparked theories as wild as they are wondrous. We've journeyed through ancient legends and modern conspiracies, each one revealing just how deeply this monument captures our imagination. Whether you're Team Merlin's magic, the lost Atlanteans, or the time-traveling descendants theory, one thing's undeniable: Stonehenge isn't just a pile of rocks. It's a mirror reflecting our endless curiosity about the past and our hunger for mystery in a world that often feels too mapped out, too explained. Think about it. The same stones that baffled medieval scholars still stump today's scientists. The same solstice alignments that Neolithic farmers revered now draw crowds of modern pilgrims wielding smartphones. That's the power of Stonehenge. It bridges eras, inviting everyone from archaeologists to UFO enthusiasts to project their wildest dreams onto its weathered surface. And maybe that's the real magic, not the aliens or the wizards, but the way 4,000-year-old stones can make us feel like wide-eyed explorers, standing on the edge of an answer just out of reach. So here's where you come in. Which theory blew your mind? Cast your vote in the comments. Are you convinced by the acoustic healing hypothesis, or do you think those blue stones hold encoded DNA? Hit subscribe and join us as we unravel more historical enigmas, from Egypt's pyramids to the Nazca lines. Because history isn't just about dusty textbooks, it's alive with secrets waiting to be cracked. And as the sun dips behind those ancient stones, remember, some riddles aren't meant to be solved, just savored.